Hey everyone, Ronin here, and welcome back to the channel. We got a lot of things to cover today because this part is pretty long. But before we get into that, we got to shout out the patron as usual. So Dylan Wolfdog31, thank you very much for your support over on Patreon. And also, everyone, analytics are very important. So please, make sure to take a time and look at these numbers down below and check out the subscribe versus unsubscribe. Don't forget to drop a like and a comment so that way we can fuel the algorithm to get to a larger audience. And if this is your first time here, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so that way you'll never miss another upload. And if you're interested in supporting the channel even further, please consider becoming a YouTube channel member or a patron. You get exclusive access to content that I don't show here on YouTube, so that's going to be something that you might want to check out. But anyway, with all that being said, let's get into What If I Wrote the Pokemon Anime Part 17. I hope you enjoy. We begin today's episode with Ash, Misty, and Brock as they're in the hot springs of the Riddle Inn. It's been about a week since our young hero had his battle with the champion of the region. While Misty and Brock just saw it as another battle, both Ash and Pikachu have been affected by it in different ways. The boy still can't quite get over the fact that he got a chance to battle Giovanni, and he remembers back to that day when he saw Giovanni outside of Professor Oak's lab. He always felt like things were a little bit off, and in the battle, even though he was excited to face the champion, it still felt that way. Ash can't quite put his finger on it, but he knows that there was more there than meets the eye. However, for Pikachu, it's even more intense, as that battle that it had with Kangaskhan, it felt so familiar, like it was an old friend, but the mouse just doesn't know why that it feels that way. However, this is a mere distraction for the matter that's truly at hand. What Giovanni had said to Ash before he had departed, the fact that there's an active gym still on Cinnabar Island. This has completely consumed the boy's entire thought process since that mention of that comment. Ash has been spending the better part of the week combing the island trying to find any signs of this new gym, including visiting the old gym, which is now more than a pile of broken and burned down boards that have just been laying there for years unattended by anybody. This brings us full circle back to the Riddle Inn, where Ash, Misty, and Brock find themselves relaxing in the hot springs behind the small, sleepy hotel. Well, sort of relaxing, as they have been divided between the male and female section. And it's here that we find Brock and Ash in full conversation as they are discussing the events of Giovanni's battle and the fact that there is a gym here on Cinnabar. Well, what Ash thinks is a gym on Cinnabar, considering that the boy hasn't actually seen one, and Brock's been here for well over a month now, and he hasn't seen one either. Considering he's been here for about a month and he's heard no word of this or seen no hide nor hair of anything that even resembles a gym, being a former gym leader himself, he's skeptical about the claims of the regional champion. Though he does have to admit that there is some validity in what Giovanni said, considering he is the actual champion of the region, so he hasn't completely written it off. However, as the two are in mid-conversation and discussing about their next move, Misty decides to put her 2 cents in as she yells from the other side of the fence that the two better not be trying to peep on her as she is trying to relax, to which Ash simply responds there's none of that going on over here. He has things far more important to worry about than trying to see her, and besides, who would want to see a stinky old girl like her anyway? This gets Misty's rage to boil. However, she can't really do anything about it considering that she was just getting mad at them for potentially peeping over the fence, and she would be a hypocrite if she were to try and do the same thing. So for right now, she's forced to simmer inside of her own stew, while Brock and Ash continue to discuss everything. Brock begins to mention things about Charmeleon, like it seems like it's doing well. However, Ash mentions that, yeah, while it's true, it has been a little bit lazier as of late, considering they both see it just lounging about, not really doing anything. It only has ambition when it feels like it wants to battle, and even so, when it has that ambition, it's hard for Ash to get it to listen to him. Sometimes it does obey his commands, other times it just hits the boy with its newly learned fire spin, and Ash is getting really sick and tired of its attitude. However, this just causes Brock to smile, as Charmeleon is lounging lazily on the side of the hot spring, while it's staring at them with one eye open. The gym leader states to Ash that it's merely growing, and it's going to be rediscovering itself since it's taken on a new form and gained new power. It's kinda like you, Ash, as you grow and evolve, you're going to discover things about yourself that you didn't know were possible. So you got to be willing to take the good and the bad. That's the only way you and Charmeleon are going to be able to grow together. But if you become impatient with it, then like it or not, it's just going to result in you two growing apart. So you might want to make sure that you temper yourself in hopes of getting the results that you want. While Ash and Brock are continuing their conversation, this allows us to pan over to the actual Pokemon, as they're kind of just lounging on or in the side of the pool that everyone is sitting in. While Squirtle and Nidorina are kind of enjoying the water, as it's something that they don't usually get to experience, Charmeleon is lounging about at a slight rock face that is on the other side, while Butterfree is on a perch that it found on the top of the rocks. This just leaves Bulbasaur, as it has decided to approach Charmeleon because, believe it or not, the grass type has a slight issue with the way Charmeleon's been acting since it evolved. It seems to think that it's better than everyone else, and it's not the same Pokemon that intrigued Bulbasaur when it watched it in the gym battle with Koga. Its lackadaisical and lazy attitude that it's been demonstrating, rather than its will and want to try and get stronger, has really been a problem of contention with the grass type since its whole evolution. However, Bulbasaur seems to be the only one bothered by this, as everyone else has tried to kind of ignore it since Charmeleon outclasses their power. Even Nidorina shines away from the fire type, mainly focusing its aggression on Pikachu as it's still in the realms of being able to be bullied by the poison type. But this leads into a conversation with Bulbasaur as it seems to be addressing Charmeleon. This causes both Brock and Ash's attention to shift as they watch what unfolds. From what the two can gather, it looks like Bulbasaur seems to have some sort of issue with Charmeleon, but the fire type is merely blowing off Bulbasaur, as it doesn't seem to think that whatever it has to say has any type of importance on its standings or anything. This causes Bulbasaur to get a bit agitated with the fire type, as it lets out a Vine Whip and slaps it across the tail, trying to get its attention. However, this merely prompts Charmeleon to spit back with the Fire Spin in an attempt to get the grass type to go away. But this isn't going to have the effect that Charmeleon wanted, as Bulbasaur is quick to retaliate by using its vines and dipping them inside of the water before throwing some up onto Charmeleon, causing the fire type to stand on end and to stare down the first stage evolution. Both Brock and Ash can see this. Charmeleon is looking at Bulbasaur like it has some sort of superiority complex, to which Ash wants to get involved with, but Brock tells him not to do anything. Let's just see where this goes. Ash's Pokemon seem to have something that they need to work out between themselves, and if there's any animosity there, it's best that they let them get it out so that way they can work together as a team, to which this is exactly what happens, as Charmeleon tries to launch at Bulbasaur with the Metal Claw to try to attack it. However, the Vine Whips are what provides the type of coverage that Bulbasaur needs. While it is weak to fire-type moves, the fact that it can attack from a distance and it still has enough power to lift Charmeleon into the air before chucking it aside to state that it won't be intimidated by the fire-type's tactics are what's the defining factor here. And as Bulbasaur chucks Charmeleon to the side, it slams into one of the spouts that pours water into the hot springs, and as Charmander lets out a yelp of pain from being slammed into the hard stone surface, something starts to happen. A brief shaking begins to envelop the entire area as the water swishes back and forth, and all of the Pokemon that are out of their Pokeballs become uneasy. This includes even Charmeleon, as it's slowly begun to fall into the water, only barely catching itself on the rock face that is in front of it before it slides to the right, breaking the fence that divides the men and women section of the hot spring. This causes Misty to become very agitated with the two, as she thinks that this is something that Brock and Ash had tried to do, but as she peers around the fence to yell at the two boys, she can't help but notice their attention is not on her. As a matter of fact, it's on the giant hole inside of the rock face, with a stairway that seems to lead down into the abyss of the unknown. Now we're going to shift perspectives as we head over to Viridian City and we follow up with Jesse, James, and Meowth. They are in the process of fulfilling their assigned tasks by Giovanni, and that is to get the gym leader of Viridian City to join the ranks of Team Rocket. However, the three have been a bit unsuccessful. They've been here for about a week now, and the gym leader's been completely AWOL. The gym itself is shut down, and nobody knows when it's going to open up again. This gets Jessie upset, as she states that it's a gym leader's responsibility to always keep their gym open. How could he just leave the city without notifying anybody where he was going to go? However, James and Meowth reiterate that when Team Rocket ran the place, Giovanni often shut it down as he was traveling under the guise of a businessman. So it's actually not uncommon for the gym here inside of the city. But this just This causes Jessie to get a bit agitated with the two, as she begins to slap him on the back of the head, telling him not to tell her she's wrong. This causes the two to flinch, as this is the 6th morning in a row that they've come at the crack of dawn to try and get inside of the gym to see if there was anybody here. But once again, they're met with locked doors. That is, until in the meeting of the beating that Jessie is giving both James and Meowth, an odd figure appears above the gym in the sky, yelling that he demands for them to clear the way. This gets the attention of the trio, causing them to jump out of the way as a giant winged Pokemon lands with a whoosh of wind as its mighty wings beat, securing its safety on the ground before a trainer jumps off and asks if they are here to challenge his gym, to which Jessie, James, and Meowth reiterate they are not. They have other business, and they're here to see the gym leader. But the Putz hasn't been here in days, and they're becoming agitated, and their employer will not like that they have been forced to wait. However, the statement from the fiery redhead doesn't seem to shake the boy, as he introduces himself as Lance, the leader of the Viridian Gym. And whatever business they have here, unless it's to do with a gym battle, then he's not interested, so they need to leave his property before his Noivern forces them. Lance then recalls the dragon before unlocking the door to the gym and stepping inside. However, this isn't going to be without a tail, as Jessie is hot on his pursuit, demanding that the boy stop. He needs to hear what they have to say, but Lance just ignores them, telling the trio that he's been on a long trip and he needs some time to unwind, and the first thing he's going to do is take a shower and change clothes. So if they don't want a gym battle, then they need to leave. This forces Jessie to stop. How could this boy just shrug off Team Rocket like that? However, James and Meowth both remind her that they are here to convince him to join Team Rocket. So, as far as he's concerned, they're just another set of nobodies, as he's probably never even heard of their names. But Jessie doesn't like being reminded of how insignificant they are within the ranks of Team Rocket, so she smacks the two on the back of the head once again before turning to the boy and stating that Giovanni sent them, so he needs to stop, which in this case, this does cause the boy to stop mid-track, as Lance turns around to engage in mid-conversation with the two. So, you work for Giovanni, and what business does he have here at the Viridian Gym? After all, he hasn't been the gym leader here in quite some time, so I would imagine that he wouldn't really care what happens, considering he was the one who appointed me to the gym in the first place. And if I'm correct, the last words he told me were, "Do as you will with it." After all, he's no longer in charge. Happy now that she finally has the attention of this boy, Jessie tells Lance that he needs to pay attention quick, cause she's only going to say this once, as Meowth and James both shut their yaps and let her do all of the talking, considering she wants to take the lead on this. Jessie goes on to tell Lance that they are members of the illustrious organization known as Team Rocket, which is headed by his former mentor, Giovanni, the regional champion. And the reason they are here is simple. They've been sent to collect Lance and have him join the ranks of their organization. She goes on to state that his request is not optional. It is mandatory. So, whether he likes it or not, he's going to have to accompany them to their main base of operations. However, this statement, no matter how confidently Jessie says it, doesn't seem to have any effect on Lance, as he simply turns and tells them that he's not interested, and their whole mandatory attendance is something that doesn't frighten him. Giovanni, as a trainer, doesn't frighten him. As a matter of fact, he beat him when he was taking the Kanto Gym Challenge. So there's no amount of force in the world that Giovanni could bring against the young flying type trainer that could scare him into wanting to join their gang or their dance group or their boy band, whatever it may be. So Lance demands that they leave the gym at once. He has other priorities to attend to, and they can tell Giovanni that no matter how much he calls, he's no Houndour, so he won't be coming. The gym leader then turns to take his leave. However, this prompts a reaction from Jessie, as she's not going to take this lying down, choosing a sneak attack, sending in Arbok in an attempt to try and to attack the boy. However, Lance is no one's fool, and he did leave the gym protected while he was gone, and this is shown when a Pokemon emerges from the shadows to roast Arbok with the flame. This causes the snake to stop dead in its slither, as it can't take the intense heat from this, to which Jessie, now infuriated, tells Arbok to get back on the attack. They won't let this boy get away. But before they can even gather their senses of what that was, a loud thud can be felt as a giant orange behemoth lands right beside Lance, putting distance between the two. "Charizard, I can see you've been keeping the gym safe while I was away, weren't you?" Lance says to his fire starter, as the orange dragon breathes another flame in a demonstration of dominance, as it will not let these three do any harm to its trainer. All the while, Jesse is even more infuriated, demanding that Lance do as they say. Giovanni was the one who put him in charge of this gym, so he owes the boss. However, Lance merely restates his previous notion, saying that he will not bow to Giovanni's whims, no matter if he is the successor of the gym leader or not. And if they wish to get out of here in one piece, then they should probably leave, before Charizard decides that he wants to make their snake its next meal. But Jessie isn't going to take this lying down, demanding that Arbok go on the attack. She then turns to James, telling the boy to send in Weezing as well as his other Pokemon, to which immediately causes the purple-haired man to flinch. No, he can't use that Pokemon, to which Jessie demands that he does, but James absolutely refuses, causing the redhead to slap him upside the back of the head again and taking the 2 Pokeballs from his belt, sending in both Weezing and a Pokemon that they've had trouble with since the day that Jessie first encountered it, James's Fearow. This immediately causes PTSD for Meowth and James, as they flash back to a couple of days after the time when they caught Fearow. At that point, it was still a Spearow, and James was trying to get along with it. However, Jessie, in a bid for her internal quest for vengeance against anything that she feels wrongs her, decided that Spearow wasn't going to get the opportunity at an easy day, with James treating it like a normal Pokemon. So she decided that she was going to engage it in direct combat with herself, not even using a Pokemon or anything like that, as she decided to try and get physical with the bird. But unfortunately for the redhead, this prompted an evolution from Spearow, which immediately caused it to begin attacking not only Jessie, but James and Meowth, as well as Ekans and Coughing. This bird was far higher level than anything it had demonstrated up until this point, and it only took the push from Jessie to force it into its evolution, causing it to be able to outclass anything that they were capable of at that time, forcing them into a position that they didn't want to be part of. And the only reason why they were able to survive Pharaoh's onslaught is because James was able to recall it back into its Pokeball, and since that day, over a year ago, it has not been out, which means when it emerges, it is not happy, immediately turning on its so-called teammates as it attacks not only Weezing, but Arbok as well. And considering the snake has been roasted by a flamethrower, it's not in the best shape to fend off any type of attack from the flying type. This forces Jessie to get involved, as she makes an attempt to bum rush Pharaoh to try and establish that she is the dominant figure of this team. However, the flying type isn't having any of this, and it makes quick work with a couple of drill pecks on both Arbok and Weezing before turning its fury to the real target of all of the aggression that it's been holding for the past year. Jessie is the cause of all the pain and anguish that it's remembering, so it goes full bore, attacking the redhead, forcing her to run out of the gym with Fearow in tow. This causes both James and Meowth to look on, before turning to Lance and thanking him for his time, only to quickly run out of the gym after Jessie to try and provide whatever assistance that she can. This just gets an odd look from Lance and Charizard, as they both don't understand what just happened, but he can best believe that just because they failed doesn't mean that Giovanni is going to give up that quickly, and Lance knows this deep within his soul. This now brings us back to Ash and friends, as they have made a wardrobe change as they want to investigate this stairway that leads to seemingly nowhere. While Ash is curious, both Brock and Misty are a bit hesitant, telling him to proceed with caution, so they do, heading into the depths of the cave. However, as they descend, they notice something. The temperature of the surrounding area seems to be getting hotter and hotter and hotter, until they find themselves in front of a pair of giant iron doors that seem to be a gateway to something. It's here that Ash tries to push on them. However, Brock warns them that they may be hot considering how much heat is pouring from the surrounding area, so he suggests that they let Onyx take a shot at this, to which the rock snake is easily able to use its immense weight and girth to push through the doors without causing any type of damage to itself. This is where our trio finds themselves, in the pit of the volcano that sits just above the Riddle Inn, and in the center of it is what looks like a battlefield. This has the three completely stumped, with Misty questioning how this got here. That is, until someone utters out the words, "I figured you'd eventually find this place, considering Giovanni had tipped you off to it." This is when the keeper of the Riddle Inn makes himself known, to which Ash Brock and Misty question how he got here. The old man states that there's no reason why he wouldn't be able to get here. After all, this is his gym. Before pulling off his sunglasses, wig, and fake mustache to reveal an old man with hair as white as snow. However, he doesn't look familiar to anybody here. This causes a moment of awkward silence until the man just blurts out his name. "I'm Blaine, the leader of the Cinnabar gym." "Oh, right, that's who you are," Ash says. "Well, I was going to get to it eventually." To which the boy tries to play it off as slyly as possible, but Blaine tells him he's no fool. He knows that Ash had no idea who he was, and the only reason he was able to find this place is because Giovanni had made it clear that the gym was still in operation on the island, though he had hoped that it was hidden well enough that he would eventually just give up. But it appears by freak accident that he was able to discover the gym. So, does he want what he had come for? Before Blaine holds up what looks to be like a badge, to which Ash immediately goes into battle mode, demanding a chance to challenge the gym for the badge. Blaine is happy to accept this challenge. However, it's on one condition. Ash does not reveal the location of the gym on Cinnabar. He'd rather keep it a closely guarded secret, considering even though he is still in operation, he doesn't want all of the tourists coming here to try and get a gym battle or a mock one, so to speak. That was the reason why he had shut down the gym in the first place. Too many people coming here just for the sights and ruining the natural beauty of the island itself. Ash has no problem agreeing to these terms because he could care less if anybody knows the location of the gym. He just wants the chance to get the actual badge himself. So once the two are in agreement, they both take their respective sides of the battlefield, aiming to make this as quickly as possible. However, there is going to be one stipulation that Blaine has to make clear here. This will be a 2-on-2, and if Ash can't beat him the first try, then he won't be getting a rematch. To which the boy states that it isn't fair. He's supposed to accept any and all challengers from the Indigo League that come his way. However, Blaine reiterates that with the gym hidden, there's no way that anybody could come here to verify if I had rejected your challenge, because as far as they're concerned, only a couple of people within inside of the league know I even exist, including Giovanni, and I can assure you, he is far too busy to care about some complaints that I had rejected a rematch challenge from some unknown trainer. Knowing that the man speaks the truth, Ash agrees to these terms, to which Misty says he's crazy. There are other gyms spread out through the CANT region. There's more than 10 as a matter of fact, so he might as well just challenge one of them. At least he'll get the chance to actually get a rematch if he can't beat Blaine, to which, if Misty remembers correctly, is one of the strongest gym leaders that Kanto has to offer. However, Ash is stubborn, and he refuses to back down, to which Brock, seeing this, chooses to offer some words of wisdom. If he remembers correctly, Blaine is a fire-type user, so Ash might want to use that to his advantage. But the boy reminds Brock that he's breaking the code of ethics between gym leaders. However, Brock and Ash have become pretty good friends, and he highly doubts that he's going to receive any punishment for words that are said out on the road, going off of the same logic that Blaine had just used. "Well then, are you going to accept my terms?" Blaine says, to which Ash steps forward, nodding. He agrees to the terms that Blaine has set forth as he readies his first Pokeball. Smiling, Blaine is happy to engage in battle with the boy, as it's been a while since he had one. As he reveals his first Pokemon, what pops from the ball is something that is akin to what seems to be a legend, as a Pokemon called Ninetales makes its way known onto the field, with elegance in each step that it takes. Using his Pokedex, Ash gets a chance to learn as much as he can about the Firefox and realizes that it's a second stage evolution, which means he's gonna have to go with pure type advantage if he helps in having any chance of beating it. So, without hesitation, he readies his Pokeball, declaring, "Squirtle, I choose you!" The tiny turtle pops from the Pokeball with a brief cry of its name, although it winces at the sheer heat of the volcano. Blaine notices this, suggesting that Ash's Squirtle isn't that well adept at battling fire types, considering that it just merely winced at the heat in the surrounding air. However, Ash merely tells Blaine to mind his own business. Only he and his Pokemon know what they're capable of, to which the gym leader is going to get a first-hand chance to see exactly what Ash is talking about, as he takes the first move, calling for a water gun. However, this is going to be quickly overpowered by Ninetales, as it wastes no time calling for a move that is more than double the power of the puny water-type move in something called a heat wave. Suddenly, an emergence of a fire tornado comes from the direction of Ninetales, as it not only consumes the water gun and enveloping the battlefield in steam, but also rushes directly with Squirtle, hitting the tiny water type and sending it careening back into the volcano wall. With enough enough force, causing it to let out a cry of its name, almost suggesting that it was one-shotted from that simple attack. However, luckily for Ash, Squirtle is able to make its way back to its feet and jump back onto the battlefield, though it looks like the turtle may have suffered a burn from that massive amount of firepower that it was just subjected to. Well, I gotta give it credit. I thought it wasn't gonna survive that, Blaine says. However, it won't survive my next attack. Now, Ninetales, use quick attack. Suddenly, Ninetales begins to blur across the battlefield as it begins to close the distance between Squirtle and itself. Before it knows it, Squirtle finds itself staring down the Firefox as it quickly slams its head into the tiny turtle. However, Ash is quick to counter here as he calls for a withdrawal, raising the defense of Squirtle. This prevents any major damage to it, and Ninetales to take a little bit of recoil from it slamming its head into the hard shell of the turtle type. This puts Ash in a perfect position as it's able to counter by ordering Squirtle to use a bubble, to which the tiny turtle emerges its head to hit Ninetales at point blank range. Now, while the bubble attack isn't that powerful as far as PP is concerned, at this close range it does have enough power to cause a decent amount of damage considering Ninetales was forced to take it point blank. However, that doesn't mean this is going to go without retaliation, as Blaine is quick to counter by calling for a fire spin, to which a tornado of fire immediately envelops Squirtle, leaving Ash at a loss for words, hoping the tiny turtle Pokemon is alright. However, the fire tornado is not letting up, and with the burn that Squirtle had already endured, this could be it. This is where Misty yells for Ash to pull his head out of his butt. He is the only one that can pull Squirtle's true potential out of it. This causes the boy to start thinking quickly, and he realizes something. The spinning of the fire tornado may be something that Ash can use to his advantage. It's here that he tells Squirtle to use a rapid spin, to which the tiny turtle is able to easily do as it begins to bounce off the walls of the fire tornado like a hockey puck as it moves its way towards the top before jettisoning itself with the force of the fire as it rises above. This puts it just directly above Ninetales, to where Ash is able to immediately launch a water gun, and Squirtle is able to connect with the Firefox once again. However, as the tiny turtle drops back to the ground, it is immediately hit with the burn once again, before Ninetales counters with another heat wave that connects with Squirtle at point blank range, sending it back into the gym wall. And unfortunately for the water type, this isn't going to have the repeat result that it did last time, as Squirtle is unable to recover from it, giving Blaine the first win in this battle. As Ash recalls Squirtle, he looks over to see Blaine and Ninetales sitting there confidently that they have this battle won. This forces Ash to contemplate his next move. If a water type couldn't handle the heat, then what other Pokemon does he have that possibly could? Unfortunately for the boy, he knows there's only one answer, and it makes him flinch a bit, as the wild card of his team isn't something that he has the greatest confidence in, but he knows it's their only shot, and he hopes that it's going to be on the same page as him, as he declares, "Charmeleon, I choose you!" The fire lizard pops from the ball with a brief burst of flames coming from its mouth. However, as it stares down Ninetales, something odd happens. The flame on its tail begins to burn a little bit more intensely, signifying that Charmeleon is interested in this battle. This immediately gets Ash happy, as he's hoping that Charmeleon is ready to take down Ninetales, as they have a lot of work to make up considering Squirtle couldn't take out the fox. Blaine compliments Ash on what seems to be a powerful Charmeleon. However, he's curious on the demonstration of its true power, so he wants to test it, ordering Ninetales to use a quick attack. However, Charmeleon isn't a fool, and even though Ash calls for a fire spin to try and ward off the attack, the fire type decides that it's going to go with a different type of a technique, something that it learned over the last couple of weeks, as its rage had become something that was a little bit more powerful in a move called Dragon Rage. And this is what the fire starter launches at Ninetales when Ash calls for a fire spin, causing the boy to yell at Charmeleon, stating that wasn't the move that he wanted it to use. However, in this instance, it was the right one, as the Dragon Rage has enough power to knock out what's remaining of the health of Ninetales, bringing this battle to a close before Charmeleon had even taken any damage. Blaine recalls his Firefox, telling Ash that even though his Charmeleon disobeyed it, it made the right call. His Ninetales ability is called Flash Fire, which means if that fire spin had connected, it wouldn't have done anything to Ninetales, and it would have been able to cause some damage to Charmeleon, and in the process, raise Ninetales' special attack, which means Charmeleon would have been severely outclassed when it came to fire-type moves. This immediately causes Ash to stand there, a little bit dumbfounded, as Charmeleon looks back at him, kind of giving a smug look before letting out a brief flame, almost to say, "I told you so." Great, Ash thinks to himself. Now Charmeleon's going to be less inclined to listen to me throughout the battle, and this is something something we can't have right now. We both have to be on the same page. However, his inner thoughts are going to be interrupted when Blaine decides it's time to unveil his ace as he calls for Magmar to emerge. But he doesn't throw a Pokeball, which catches Brock, Misty, and Ash all off guard. Instead, what happens is a burst of lava erupts from the pit below before something lands on the battlefield. A scorching hot, glowing Pokemon whose body looks like it's made of molten earth. This is Magmar, Ash. It is my strongest Pokemon. And if you wish to beat it, then you and Charmeleon are going to have to get past your petty disagreements. Otherwise, you won't have any chance to get your victory today. This immediately causes the boy to tell Charmeleon they have to work together. They need to be one. If they're not, then this will cost them the match. However, Charmeleon is seemingly ignoring Ash with its gaze fixated on Magmar, as its tail is now glowing an even more intense red than it was before, signifying that it wants this battle more than anything. The only thing Ash can do is hope that Charmeleon's urge to want to test its power against other Pokemon is what's going to prevail here, as Blaine states that they are going to start this next battle, and he orders Magmar to use a Fire Punch, to which Ash immediately calls for a counter in a Metal Claw. This Charmeleon actually accomplishes, as the two connect, seemingly canceling each other out. Blaine compliments Charmeleon as it is truly a powerful fire type. That Metal Claw is a steel-based move, which means it should have been at a disadvantage, but it was able to match Magmar blow for blow. This immediately turns up the heat, as Blaine decides to play a little bit dirty here, calling for a Mud Slap, to which Magmar uses a bit of the mud that is still left over from Squirtle's water gun to form a ball that it throws into the eyes of Charmeleon in an attempt to blind it. However, the fire type isn't going to let this happen, as Ash calls for a Fire Spin to try and deflect it, but it simply uses the claws on its hands to execute a slash to cause the Mud Slap to dissipate before it's able to cause any real damage to it. This isn't good, Ash thinks to himself. Every other attack, Charmeleon refuses to do as I say. If this keeps up, we're definitely not going to be able to win this. But Ash has to put his faith in Charmeleon, so he decides to push ahead, as Brock and Misty watch on, curious and concerned that Ash is actually going to be able to pull this off, to which the boy immediately tries his next move, calling for another Fire Spin, to which Charmeleon decides that it's time for it to do. However, Magmar is not going to let this go uncontested, as it immediately decides to demonstrate its most powerful fire type attack in the form of something called a Fire Blast. Suddenly, a giant kanji made of flames appears in front of Charmeleon as Magmar pushes it in the direction of the fire lizard. Next thing both Ash and it knows, it's consumed by the flames of this all-out powerful attack, as its Fire Spin is merely shoved aside almost like it was nothing at all. The last thing Ash sees is Charmeleon falling into the lava below as the fire dissipates before the lizard disappears within the lava. Ash immediately begins to panic as he looks over the side of the battlefield calling for Charmeleon's name, to which Blaine tells the boy that if Charmeleon is able to survive the heat of the volcano, then that's truly going to be a spectacle to see. However, it only has 10 seconds before it needs to get back up to the battlefield, or it's going to be disqualified. This immediately causes Ash to begin to panic even further, because he's no longer concerned with the gym battle. He's only concerned to make sure that Charmeleon's alright. However, there's not really anything he can do. It's not like he can dive into the lava to try and fish it out, to which this just leaves the boy sitting there, only panicking, hoping that everything is alright. However, as Blaine gets to 5, bubbles begin to emerge before Charmeleon is able to break the surface and begin to traverse the rock wall of the volcano before jumping back onto the battlefield, as a glowing red aura now accompanies it, just as it had Magmar at the start of the battle. Well, that's interesting. I gotta commend Charmeleon on its tenacity, Ash. Even though it doesn't listen to you, it does have one thing in common with you, and that's the utter refusal to give up, to which Ash is just standing there completely speechless. However, Charmeleon is not, as it begins to bark at Magmar, provoking the fire type into attacking it again as Charmeleon waves, trying to get Magmar to launch another Fire Blast. Blaine can see this, and considering it wasn't able to take the last one, he's confident that they'll be able to take this one last time and end this battle for good. So he gladly orders Magmar to use its ace move in Fire Blast, to which the Lava Plume Pokemon has no problem doing, as it launches another flaming kanji in the direction of Charmeleon. However, this time, Ash has become cognitive once again, and he tells Charmeleon that if he wants to take it head on, that's fine, but they have to do something to brace it, so it needs to use Metal Claw in order to intercept it, to which the Fire Lizard actually acknowledges Ash's command as its claws glow in a steel hue before grabbing the kanji. What follows is a struggle struggle back and forth from the special power of Magmar and the physical strength of Charmeleon, but this is going to go far different than it did last time, as Charmeleon is able to use the increased anger that it's feeling inside of it and what seems to be a glowing red aura that is now accompanying it in the flames to squeeze the kanji before it dissipates, causing both Blaine and Magmar to become surprised. However, this isn't going to last long, as Charmeleon is back on the attack with another Metal Claw, but Blaine isn't going to let this stand as he orders Magmar to use a Fire Punch. What follows is another exchange, and both of them testing their power, only to reveal that they're dead even, or so Ash thinks, as Blaine tells Magmar to use this to their advantage and force Charmeleon into the ground. This puts the Spitfire Pokemon directly behind Charmeleon, allowing Blaine to call for one final move, as he orders for Magmar to use something called a Seismic Toss. What follows is the Spitfire Pokemon wrapping its arms around the belly of Charmeleon as it begins to squirm about, trying to free itself, to which Magmar simply ignores before it jumps into the air as high as it possibly can, before turning and aiming both its head and Charmeleon's towards the ring floor. The aim for the Spitfire is to use the momentum of this fall to end Charmeleon in one final move. However, Ash knows that he can't let this happen here, because he doesn't want Charmeleon to get hurt, and it's still glowing in that red hue. This is where he gets an idea. He tells Charmeleon to use a Dragon Rage and to fire it in the direction of the ring. As the two fire types fall, Charmeleon sees what Ash is aiming for, so it begins to rapid fire Dragon Rages at the ring floor, to which Blaine tells Ash that this isn't going to work. No matter what he tries, the ring will not be able to be broken. However, that's not what Ash's aim was. It wasn't to break the ring, it was just to blast through it, to create a hole. And this is revealed as Charmeleon and Magmar come within inches and the Fire Lizard lets out the last Dragon Rage, finally breaking through the ring, allowing it to slip through, while Magmar slams face first into the ring and Charmeleon falls into the lava below once again. Ash can't help but look on in stunned silence, as does Misty and Brock. The boy looks over the ledge, once again hoping that Charmeleon is okay and the lava wasn't too much for him. Luckily, just like before, the bubbling happens and Charmeleon quickly emerges before scaling the wall once again and getting back to the ring floor, only to find Magmar a bit dazed and confused from slamming headfirst into the ring, to which Blaine isn't too happy with. He immediately tells Magmar to stand up. They can't lose like that. This is their gym. It's his home. So they have to make sure that they remain undefeated. Hearing the call of its trainer, the Spitfire stands up, charging what seems to be a Fire Blast. However, Charmeleon is going to meet this head on, as it begins to charge a Dragon Rage within its gullet. Ash tells his fire starter that this is going to be their last chance. Charmeleon has to put everything it has into this. If it doesn't, then it will be consumed by the Fire Kanji once again, and they will lose this battle. However, Charmeleon remains unflinching, as it puts everything it has into the Dragonic attack, while Magmar does the same with its fire-based move. However, unfortunately for Magmar, the damage that it took to its head is going to be a little bit much, and this causes its vision to become slightly skewed, and this puts its attack slightly off of Charmeleon, allowing the Dragon Rage to simply whiz by the kanji without trying to intercept it, connecting with Magmar and dropping the Spitfire all in one move, while Charmeleon does its best to fend off the fire kanji as it connects with the Fire Lizard point blank. This results in a brief explosion surrounding the entire area in a black smoke, to which takes a while to dissipate, but when it does, it's revealed that Charmeleon, though it has taken a knee, is still conscious and breathing very heavily, while Magmar is laying in the center of the ring, unconscious, with spirals in its eyes, giving Ash the win, to which the boy and Blaine are both surprised. Neither one of them thought this would be the outcome of the actual battle. However, Charmeleon is confident as ever, stands up, letting out another fire spin, establishing its dominance over Magmar, before going to lay out the side of the ring to take a nap from the very strenuous battle that it just engaged in. This leaves Blaine to walk over to Ash and present him with the Volcano Badge. While he has to admit, Ash's battle style seems a little unorthodox, it is exactly what he needed in order to obtain victory here. Blaine then hands over the Volcano Badge, to which Ash then thanks the gym leader and says that now that he has this, he's one step closer in getting to challenge Giovanni for the right to be champion of the region. However, this is where Blaine gets a serious tone, telling Ash that Giovanni is not what he seems to be, and if he doesn't tread lightly around the champion, then he and everyone he knows may end up in danger. And this is where we are going to leave things for now. So tell me, what did you think about this part? How did you enjoy the gym battle that Ash had with Blaine? What do you think about my change in having Charmeleon being the one to battle Magmar instead of his fully evolved Charizard that, let's face it, in the original anime kind of evolved way too quick? And how about that interaction that Jesse James and Meowth had with Lance and their failed attempt to get him to join the ranks of Team Rocket, and Lance's overall disdain for Giovanni, even though the champion is the one that assigned him to the Viridian Gym? What do you think happened between those two to cause such anger on Lance's part? Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Alright trainers, I hope you have your Pokédexes ready, because today we met Charizard, Fearow, Ninetales, and Magmar.